I'm going to go ahead and press play. All right, so on this track, I had a little bit of fun. I think that it's very easy to get lost in that first track, being that it's almost 7 minutes worth of music by Kanye. I think that that track defines the album. Even though that wasn't even a single, it never made it to radio. I think what really made that track even buzz even more was that 7 minute freestyle by Drake that he, right after he lost his BlackBerry. I'm dating myself, but this was like 2005, 2006 when Drake was just jumping on the scene, and he had like a 7 minute freestyle going crazy over that beat, and that beat was forever embedded in everybody's brain. So I think that I wanted to capture a little bit of that energy, but also capture some of the other elements that's in the album as well. So I'm gonna start off here with this little synth sound here, and I'll use Symphon PE. And this is a VST that I use just to capture this. So just have that just to kind of add a more electronic feel to the track itself. I wanted to kind of give it that energy, but I didn't want to make it too electronic because I wanted to be in my own vibe, but at the same time capture some of the energy of the 808 heartbreak vibe. So we had a choir, gotta have the choir, you know. If you're trying to emulate anything about track one of the most amazing things about that track was the choir at the end, where they just looping and going crazy, and it's just like amazing. So I had to add that in there. So we're gonna go here. Now pair that up with the strings. So both of these are from Labs, and that's from Spitfire Labs. If you're not familiar with that and you're a producer, go to Spitfire Labs, and you will be able to find some of the most amazing orchestra sample sounds completely free. No samples, no limits, just a bunch of dope sounds. A bunch of orchestra members got together and just decided to make some sounds that people can use. They have some paid stuff too, but they have they have about probably 13, 14 really full on orchestra sounds together. But here's the choir and the strings together on this one. So I wanted to keep the instrumentation out of it because there wasn't a lot of instruments in this album. So I wanted to have my instruments very noticeable, very obvious, and I wanted the rest of it to just be sounds and elements. So the only other thing you'll hear in that beat is a piano rip, just where I just took the same chord from the other. So I took the same chord here, but I threw an arpeggiator on it, and I arpeggiated it, and then I put an echo on it. So on that, you'll see that there is this sound right here, this beautiful little. So that inside the beat, just there, just adding that little bit of extra theatrical, dramatical, all of that extraness to it. But it wasn't really to carry the track. It was more just to be an accent to catch you off guard. Like, hey, what is that? Where is it going? And I feel like a lot of the album did that. I was like, okay, where's this going to be at? Where I'm going to hear this again? And a lot of it you didn't hear again. So I wanted to capture that. Because it is 808 and Heartbreak, I wanted to make sure I captured the 808 portion of it, which I really don't typically make 808 beats. So it was difficult for me. I spent a lot of this week playing around with 808 sounds. I'm actually had to look up how to use make 808s on Ableton. I never used 808 sounds on Ableton before. So I had to look it up. Very easy process, very simple. And it's actually easier to play them out than to try to find 808s that match. So I'll do a video about that for people who don't know. But this is the 808 that I chose to go with, and I did throw the drum bus. Now the tuner here, I saw somebody asking the question about the tuner. The tuner is to make sure that your 808 matches your key scale. So you want to make sure that your middle C is, or your C is, that's how I go with it. Just hit my C and make sure that my 808 matches the scale that I'm in. And so here we are with the sound for the. So you probably can't hear that if you don't have headphones in. So I'm going to skip that part a little bit. But that's what's really carrying the energy of the track. The first thing I started out with was that melody. And I went straight for the 808 to carry the track for the melody because I didn't want to try to find the place for the 808 later. So I built the track around the 808 and everything else kind of fit there. For these, I'm going to isolate all three of these. So for these, I use Playbeat. And big shout out to Cheeky CP over here. We dissected how to extract the tracks, but I actually took it a step further and I found out how to export each individual sound from Playbeat into its own audio file simultaneously. So this is what you hear from that. And it's just oh, my bad. So that's just, again, I want to add a little bit of a percussive sound to it, but I didn't want to make it an actual beat because there weren't many of those on that album. There were fragments of beats that made a rhythm, and I like that about that album. So I did that. I added some random effects in here because I wanted to give it some abstract. So here's one of these two together. I'll play first. So I wanted to give it like a traveling kind of feel. So what I did with that was I went in here and I grabbed my reverb. I threw the reverb on, and then I grabbed my echo. But then I also grabbed my auto pan, and I made it so that it would be equally distributed. It would play one time on your left side, one time on your right side. But because of the echo, it would catch the end of the other one. So you'd hear one and a half, one and a half, one and a half on each side. And so it was kind of like a different kind of just sound, almost like traveling. You're traveling, you hear. And that's just a DJ scratch, a random DJ scratch that I found. I pitch shifted it down, and I'm actually played melody into it, so it was kind of matching the tone of the track. Here I use the Moto Bass, which is, that's my go-to. Big shout out to my unofficial sponsor, Moto Bass. If you see in this, go ahead, hit the subscribe button and send me a check. But I use Moto Bass for pretty much every beat, and I'll show you why. Moto Bass is one of the most intuitive and incredible bass VSTs that I've ever seen. These all come default with it. And so if you're in here, you have 60s, 70s, modern bass, double bass, violin bass, and they all have different sounds, and they all have their true to sound characteristics. So I went ahead and used this, but I used the same sub pattern. So here's where you and so with that, what I did was I just basically put the track in position to match the bass, like the sub. Like I said, I wanted to carry the sub to be the main focal point of this beat without making the sub be so powerful. So I built everything around the sub. So if you're listening, everything is just carrying with the sub, and it's like that's setting the tone for everything. So I'm gonna play these two together just so you can hear that energy. And so I wanted to use the Moto Bass. I wanted to have that pick feel. So in Moto Bass, you can go and hit play style. You can pick finger, you can pick pick, or you can pick slap. And so I picked pick because I wanted to have that actual playing over a sub bass to give it like live and electronic drum sound at the same time, or beat sound at the same time. And then lastly, we had I used another play beat that I bumped down into this track, and it was just a couple kicks and some tom. So and that is how I made this beat. I'm going to open it up to the guys.